When I was in middle school, there were two wars going on. Xbox versus PlayStation and Halo versus Call of Duty. The Xbox kids would always say,
Xbox is better because you can play Call of Duty and Halo, and also you can have parties on it, so that makes it better.
To which I would respond,
man, they best rename that shit to Halo 3.
But seriously though, as predominantly a PlayStation gamer, I never knew or cared about Halo. In school, I do remember kids arguing between Halo 3 and Modern Warfare 2, which is better. And given that I'm an MW2 fanboy anyways, plus I never played Halo since I was on PlayStation, I always sided with MW2 and PlayStation, not even knowing what the other side was like. Well, that's changed. Today on Explore, we look at the game that started it all, Halo Combat Evolved. Halo Combat Evolved was released on November 15th, 2001, a launch title for the original Xbox. It was released in 2003 for Windows and Mac OS. A story that I feel doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that the original version of Halo that Bungie started working on in 1997 was supposed to be a third-person RTS game. On July 21st, 1999, during the Macworld conference and Expo, Steve Jobs announced that Halo would be released for Mac OS and Windows simultaneously. But on June 19, 2000, Microsoft announced they purchased the game and it would be exclusive to their newest endeavor, the Xbox. Only then was the game overhauled to become a FPS. It's said that 90% of the final product was made in just 9 months leading up to release. Microsoft sold about 24 million Xbox consoles, and Halo went on to sell 6.43 million copies. In other words, 26% of all Xbox owners also owned Halo Combat Evolved. Halo Combat Evolved was very much an evolution of the FPS genre. Growing up, my first FPS was Medal of Honor for the PS1. Then the original Call of Duty on PC until I just became a full COD fanboy. But looking at Combat Evolved within the context of when it was released, it's clear that Halo was so ahead of its time and it had so many different things that made it legendary that I don't even know where to start. First off, gameplay is just top tier. The controls are buttery smooth, the guns feel amazing to shoot, the Needler feels and looks amazing, although it wasn't my preferred weapon. The assault rifle was probably my least favorite of them all, although I had no issues mowing down enemies with it. The sniper, pistol, shotgun, rocket launcher, plasma rifle, and pistol were also satisfying and felt so smooth for a game that came out in 2001. In many ways, Bungie nailed it on their first try. I loved running out of ammo but picking up alien guns to finish the job. It forced you to play more creatively. The plasma grenades were always satisfying to blow up hordes of the Flood or stick to grunts and watch them run around in sheer panic. There are two main enemy types in this game, Covenant and the Flood. Covenant are more humanoid as they speak English and can fire weapons. I couldn't believe they were speaking English. I was like, what the hell? Am I really hearing this? There are grunts that remind me of Eric Cartman. The elites look like the grunts, but they're bigger and they have armor. Jackals, which are more medium sized and they carry a shield. And hunters, who are just big brutes with armor and a big green plasma cannon. These are the enemies you fight the first half of the game, and I never got sick of them. The grunts have a very Cartman-like humor to them. They're short, stubby, yelling and running around, sometimes even fall asleep on you.
I wonder if the ring's environment systems are malfunctioning, or if the designers wanted the installation to have inclement weather.
The elites are mixed in with the grunts normally, but are much more threatening. They even have their own armor similar to Master Chief. The jackals are little creepy, skinny bird things, and they got shields. While the shields make them difficult at first, over time you learn to hit them with the right shots to open them up to an attack. The hunters are big, bulky bullet sponges, and they are easier to take out with rocket launchers. Or I just learned while editing the video that you can kill them with one shot to the back with a pistol. Wish I knew that when I was getting the gameplay. The last half of the game, you fight Flood as well as Covenant, and sometimes you can even find them just fighting each other. Flood consists of 3 enemy types. Infection form, which were the little green swarming characters that are actually only one-hit kills, but they rely on numbers to try to catch you off guard. Combat form actually has a few different looks depending on what body they attach to, which makes some fight faster and some fight slower. But they do wield weapons even though they are zombie-like. The combat form could get really overwhelming in tight corridors, especially when you shoot at them and they just keep coming at you even though they're missing body parts. Lastly, we have the carrier form. These are just giant bombs. When shot, they explode and about 6 infection form pop out of them, which is helpful for taking out other Flood or Covenant nearby as it makes them explode, but can also backfire on you if you're too close. The way the Flood relies on sheer numbers to overwhelm is impressive for such an old game. The way the infected form creepily ooze out of openings in walls or through doors, feels so cinematic that I just like to watch, and sometimes I forget that I have to defend myself. The combat form were equally creepy, as they would try to leap towards you from heights that they couldn't reach, but that wouldn't stop them from trying. And that kind of desperation from an enemy trying to kill you leaves you feeling more frightened by them. My only real complaint about the Flood is that they use weapons. I think it would be better if they were more of a melee-based enemy, as I find it hard to believe a zombie can still use a gun. And it would set them a little more apart from the Covenant, although you could argue that the Covenant are a little more tactical with how they use their weapons. The Flood is more unpredictable, and they have shotguns, which means they're doing more damage at closer range and they're constantly rushing you, making it complete chaos when you're around a bunch of them. I almost feel like the Flood were originally going to be just a melee enemy, but then they had to give you a bit of a cop-out, because if the enemy is just melee, where are you going to get your ammo when you run out? So they had to give them guns so the player could have ammo. They could have had just a bunch of dead soldiers in every area around where the Flood were to show how deadly the Flood are, and then you could just pick up, your friendly soldiers' ammo. That could have solved the problem, but I think maybe this is just a bit of a nitpick anyways. The game itself is actually really beautiful. Now I am playing it on a Series X through the Master Chief Collection, and I did play it on the old graphics as I wanted as close to an OG experience as I could. I'm sure you'll notice in the B-roll of this video though that from time to time I would switch the graphics, which I thought was such a cool feature. The game looks really good either way. Obviously the new version has improved graphics and textures, but there were some textures I actually thought looked better in the old game. I loved how the game would switch between tight corridors to an almost prototype open world, where you could walk around and there wasn't much to see, but for a 2001 game, some of these levels really feel big, especially the snow level where you're on foot, vehicle, and you're flying. Halo Combat Evolved is so multifaceted and ahead of its time. The lush green hilltops and rushing water made for beautiful scenery regardless of the graphic settings you were on. Walking through the gray corridors of a ship but having aliens with red, yellow, orange, blue armor and fighting with blue and green plasma guns made for a great contrast. I felt the old graphics actually helped in the swamp level, where I found the old graphics on the swamp level helped the swamp to be more unsettling than when I switched it to the new graphics. It just looked a little too clean. I kind of like the darker, grittier tone of the old graphics. The music in this game is top tier, composed by legendary composer Marty O'Donnell. There is hints of tribal, electronic, metal all rolled into one with some orchestral vibes as well. When the music hits and you're fighting a bunch of enemies, it almost got to a Doom level of intense. Specifically this music that plays on the Silent Cartographer. It was just so good it gave me goosebumps when it started playing. The AI, both friendly and enemy, had its ups and downs for me. For example, the Covenant AI would run away when you would throw a grenade at them, or if their shield needed to recover. But the Flood wouldn't run away, which is presumably because the Flood are more zombified, and I don't think that they are aware like the Covenant are, except it doesn't make any sense because they can use guns. Either way, it shows that the Covenant AI was pretty smart. Walking into a room and seeing both enemy types fighting each other was always fun. Sometimes I just like to kick back and watch them fight and see who would win, or I would try to make a quick escape while they were distracted with each other. Now, friendly AI I was confused with. They seemed pretty decent at first, but then when we got to the Warthog, I had some problems. Simply put, if they got into the Warthog, they wouldn't get out unless I took their seats. Even then, they would just stand there and they wouldn't follow me into battle. I didn't really ever use the Marines in the Warthog like how you're supposed to, so I was kind of disappointed in that aspect when it came to the AI. Speaking of the Warthog, let's talk negatives of this game. My biggest one by far is the Warthog itself. I love the idea of having this badass all-terrain vehicle, but hated, and I mean hated, the controls. I can't even count how many times I lost control of that thing. It handles like you're driving a Leaf. Why they made it so that the right stick controls the steering and the camera is one of Earth's great mysteries. I feel like even for back then they should have known better. I tried to do anything with the Warthog on foot instead if I could. And then when we hit the last mission, the finale of the game has you basically going through an obstacle course with ramps and tunnels and tight paths with a car that you can't control at all. I really liked this game, but this made the ending fall completely flat for me. I thought about trying the last mission on foot, but then I realized that there was a timer and there was no way I'd be able to make it in time. So then I had to play it again and slowly creep along, and I just barely made it. Why did they choose a Warthog for the last mission rather than its bread and butter, combat? I don't understand. The crazy thing is too is that the controls for the Warthog are actually the same as the flying vehicles. Yet these controls feel completely fine when you're flying, When you're driving, the car doesn't handle, you can't turn, you turn too much, you fall off cliffs. It's just a nightmare. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with it anymore. I pray to God that when I play Halo 2, the controls are different. The level design was another issue for me. Now, I loved the aesthetic of the corridors to open world designs, back to corridors to open worlds again they had with each map. But to me, the problem arose when I noticed the same pattern with multiple levels. That being that you have to go into some big ship or cave, fight all the way to the end, and then you gotta turn around and backtrack to escape. I noticed this already by the 3rd level. It got to the point where I wanted levels to end, or, other words, get into the halfway mark where I got all the way to the end of the cave, because I knew I was gonna have to come running back out eventually. On the level Assault on the control room, I was so confused between like these hexagon, octagon shaped rooms and the 2 bridges that you go back and forth on. I couldn't remember if I was coming or going. Everything looked exactly the same. Luckily, the game leaves bodies on the ground. They don't dissolve like they do in other games, so I could use that to remember where I had been. On the level The Library, I would get turned around and have to switch to the updated graphics, because in the updated graphics, there were arrows on the ground, so I could use that to find my way. But when I was back to the old graphics, there were no arrows on the ground, and I didn't understand that. Did they forget to put arrows, or did they put arrows where there weren't before? I don't know what the deal was with that. Now, I really liked Cortana in this game.
Left out that little detail, did he?
There are a few scenes where she has some corny dialogue, but overall I really enjoyed her as the sort of sidekick to the main character, Master Chief. She's witty and smart and actually gives you good advice on where to go if you start getting lost. The game recognizes it and she'll give you hints on where to go. Now, Master Chief, on the other hand, I wasn't so fond of. See, when I was young, I always heard of all these kids and they always talked about how Master Chief was this and Master Chief was that. A lot of people thinking he was this great character. And after seeing what he's about so far, I can't say I agree. I honestly found him boring and a little cheesy. He's kind of like Superman. He's just OP. He's there and he can kick everybody's ass. And he just kind of stands there like a doofus while Cortana yells at him.
We need to go right now.
Most of the good dialogue in this game actually comes from stuff Cortana says and some of the funny stuff that the Marines say during fights. Master Chief is just kind of there for me. Maybe in the future games, he'll say or do things that'll make me change my mind. Okay, it's time for my final gripe. The story itself. Now, I don't know if this is a controversial statement, but I was so lost with this story. First off, the game talks about Forerunners for like 5 seconds and then like never talks about it again. I'm not going to look it up as this is a review for a game, so I'm taking the game at face value. Sure, I can look up stuff after the fact, but that doesn't help me figure out what's going on in the game in real time when I'm playing it. There is this one scene where Cortana tells Master Chief that she has no time to explain anything, you just have to go. Which also leaves me, the player, completely lost as well. And then later she gets mad at Master Chief for not knowing anything. And it's like, well, I asked you 15 minutes ago and you didn't tell me anything, so now you're mad at me for not knowing anything? What?
Buried? Where?
The captain. We've got to stop the captain.
Keys? What
The
are
weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here, find keys, stop him. Before it's too late!
Cortana.
I've spent the last 12 hours cooped up in here watching you toady about, helping that thing get set to slit our throats.
Hold on now. He's a friend.
Oh, I didn't realize. He's your pal, is he? Your chum? Do you have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
See, I was so lost. I thought the story was going to be that Captain Keyes was like a bad guy. When Cortana told me to go stop Captain Keyes, I thought he was going to be a bad guy or something, but I was completely wrong, I guess. Usually when I'm playing a game to review it, I write down notes, and then when I'm writing my review, I will summarize the review, so then when I'm making the video, I can give the viewers of the video a summarization of the game. Not today, baby. We're just reading straight from Wikipedia. The game begins as the Pillar of Autumn exits slip space, and its crew discovers a large ring world structure of unknown origin. The Covenant pursues the Autumn and attacks. With the ship heavily damaged, the Autumn's captain, Jacob Keyes, entrusts the ship's artificial intelligence, known as Cortana, to Master Chief in order to prevent the Covenant from discovering the location of Earth. Keyes orders the crews to abandon the Autumn and pilots the ship to a crash landing on the ring world. On the ring surface, Master Chief and Cortana rescue the other survivors and help organize a counter-offensive. Learning that Keyes has been captured by the Covenant, Master Chief and a small contingent of soldiers rescue him from the Covenant cruiser Truth and Reconciliation. Keyes reveals the Covenant call the ring world Halo and that they believe it to be a weapon. Intent on stopping the Covenant from using Halo, Keyes searches for a potential weapons cache, while Master Chief and Cortana mount an assault on the Ringworld's control room. Cortana enters Halo's computer system and discovers something, sends Master Chief to find and stop Keyes from continuing his search. Searching for the captain, Master Chief encounters a new enemy, the Parasitic Flood. The release of the Flood prompts Halo's caretaker, the AI 343 Guilty Spark, to enlist Master Chief's help in activating Halo's defenses. After Master Chief retrieves the ring's activation index, 343 Guilty Spark transports him back to Halo's control room. Cortana intervenes before Master Chief can activate the ring. She has discovered the purpose of the installation is to destroy all sentient life in the galaxy, starving the Flood of potential hosts. When Cortana refuses to surrender Halo's activation index, 343 Guilty Spark attacks her and Master Chief. To stop Halo's activation, Master Chief and Cortana decide to destroy the installation, needing Keyes' natural implant to destroy the Atom and Halo with it. Master Chief returns to Truth and Reconciliation, only to find that Keyes has been assimilated by the Flood. Retrieving the neural implant with the activation codes from the Captain's remains, Master Chief returns to the wreck of the Atom and manually destabilizes the ship's reactors, narrowly escaping the ensuing detonation in one of the Atom's fighters. While the majority of the remaining Covenant, UNSC forces, and infected Flood are destroyed along with the Halo installation. Cortana justifies their sacrifices and believes their work to be finished, but the Master Chief states that they are only getting started. In a post-credit scene, 343 Guilty Spark is seen floating in space, having survived Halo's destruction. So after reading the summary of the plot on Wikipedia, I still don't know who the Forerunners are and why they are important, and I still have no idea who created 343 Guilty Spark, because obviously he wants to wipe out all sentient life. So is he like a robot trying to take over the universe with nothing but robots? Or did the Forerunners create Guilty Spark? I have no clue. I'm sure I can dig in the internet and find these answers, but the digging would have been a lot harder to do in 2001, and that's my point. For what it's worth though, I love the scene with the Master Chief watching the headcam footage of them all getting destroyed by the Flood, and the scene where the Marine is going crazy and he's shooting at you. Those were by far the two best storytelling moments in the whole game. Now I have heard that the narrative of Halo 2 is amazing, so I have no doubt that it'll be much better than Combat Evolved. I am optimistic that it'll go more into what the Forerunners are, and it'll have overall better cutscenes and dialogue that are easier to follow. Ultimately, this game came out in 2001, so naturally there's going to be some issues. There are so many facets of Halo Combat Evolved that were so far ahead of their time that the small issues here and there can be completely overlooked in my opinion. The gameplay is some of the best I've ever felt, the enemies were unique, and the levels were beautiful. This game is just the foundation for what would eventually become a mansion of a franchise. And I can't wait to officially walk through those doors with Halo 2. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I put a lot of work into it, so if you guys could please give the video a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. If not though, it's fine, I understand. Comment down below and let me know why you think I suck. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next review.